Work group. Gonna open the Nantucket Harbor Plan Work Group, March 3rd. At 1:05. In the lovely trailer. Okay. Jeff, did you get the new speed they sent out last week? I don't really care. But
Probably did.
all right, somebody want to always put down establishment of quorum on the minutes on the agenda.
Okay.
That's required. I believe we have a quorum. We want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Phil,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Okay, and then staff, Tim,
Yep.
Kristen,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yep.
Jeff. Yep. Okay, somebody want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Somebody second?
Second.
All those in favor, Phil,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
myself. Okay, that's that down. Approval of the minutes. We got some, was it this morning, Peter, or yesterday?
Yesterday
Yesterday.
afternoon.
Anybody have any questions about these minutes?
I want to say that it's not April 24th, it's April 22nd, so I hope we don't have to.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I did not get to review them yet.
I never question what he writes.
You should.
He's the writer. Somebody want to make a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
Was that Steve?
Yep.
Was there a second?
I did.
I don't care.
I'll second.
Phil seconded. All those in favor, Phil,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Rachel,
I wasn't actually there for those meetings, so,
abstain.
abstain, yeah,
Okay.
please.
So, review draft plan. Here we go.
Okay, do you want me to take
I
over?
just- That's the
Phil,
question.
Peter,
So what happens if we don't approve the agenda, but we proceed forward?
you can't do it without approving the agenda.
Okay, so last meeting, we did not approve the agenda.
Oh,
Or
It's okay, I'm just
I was
saying.
late. It was
you were
blamed
not even here.
No, I'll blame Linda, she wasn't here.
She was not here.
Okay.
It's not the end of the world.
And also, sorry again, we didn't approve the minutes because I'd sent them like, right before the meeting, so that's mostly my fault. So
What were the dates?
So- I think it was the 27th, January 27th. So
This year?
of this year. So they'll be back at the next
Put
meeting.
those on the next meeting,
Yep.
whatever else you get time to
Yep.
catch up with. Okay. Phil,
Tim, I just have two points as we go forward on this. Because I guess they're like 46 pages and now we're really getting into an awful lot of wording. Could you highlight in different colors the goals and objectives of each of the sections?
Yes.
Because otherwise they just all kind of blend in together and it's really
Right.
hard to see which recommendation is referring to which objective because,
Right.
okay, if you could do, and maybe have a different color for a goal and then the other point is I think even at this early stage in the process, we ought to have highlight or asterisk or something under each of the responsible parties who is the ultimate or the ultra responsible party.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that
I
it just looks like they're all equals.
Yep. Yep. I definitely agree.
And the Board of Health and Roads and Right of Way are chomping at the bit to see this,
Yep.
sort of. But I was asked at the last Road to right of way meeting, you know, where we are and when can they get to see a draft of this?
I guess that is up to everyone. You know, is this a time where we can share kind of internally with some of these groups? Or I see Jack just took off his his mute button. Maybe Jack has an idea on this.
Well, at the last meeting, we said to send it out to Sheila and all the other stakeholders. So they can get a gander at this thing. I think we need to send it out like now.
We said at the end, we said at the last meeting that we'd have a document that would be ready for public consumption by the end of March at the earliest, and then maybe April.
I would submit that this is pre-public consumption.
Still?
This is the, you know, committees that are actually having the, you know, they're indicated as being responsible parties and that they want an early look at it.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to redraft a whole lot of stuff because they haven't seen it.
Oh, no, I don't think we need to obsess over, you know, how pretty it is because. you know,
Right, I think they need to see it though.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I did send it to Sheila. Haven't heard back from her yet, but I did send it to her. And you know, on my end, I'm okay with you guys sharing it with some of the committees and starting to get feedback that way. We also, you know, did note that we want to make sure that the responsible parties that are highlighted are okay with being highlighted and we're not just tasking them with something that they're not aware of. Do others agree, or is there a process step that I'm missing that it makes that not okay?
As long as we, when we send it out, we say, this isn't for the public to see yet.
Yeah.
Because if it slips out and, I don't know,
Yeah,
No,
it's not for the public, yeah.
The reading law, this is a public document because we all have it. So
Right.
if somebody asks for it, they can have it.
right, but we're not
We're not promoting it.
holding up a sign at the head of Main Street saying,
But
hey,
if somebody asks for it, they can have it.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely not for public, but Jack, did you?
I mean, there's two ways of thinking about it. To put it in their hands early is good because they'd be able to look at it and maybe pick off something that they would want to contribute to. You've reviewed and the goals and objectives are solid. You've reviewed them, so there's nothing that you haven't reviewed the recommendations at all. And I should think that prudently you would want to send out a version that you've all at least read. And that's what we're starting today is the recommendations. And then we filled in the responsible parties. We may be way off base in that. So we just sending it would just create, I think, a lot of turmoil that's unnecessary.
so maybe what you're saying, Jack, is let's not send it to people until this committee has gone through the whole document and
Yeah, at least once. Yeah.
its first whack
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah, because you definitely have a better shot at getting the responsible parties right than we do. I mean, I think we did a decent job, but we don't really know everything about how the town functions. So,
Mhm.
I think we're gonna get the most pushback is probably who's gonna do what.
yeah, thank you, Linda. I think that's probably true.
I would say that maybe at this early stage to send this to the Board of Health, the roads and right away, they're gonna see all this commentary in pink
Yeah.
that they don't probably need to see. Cause this is all sort of internal within our committee.
Yeah. Then wait. till we
So
get
maybe
one
what we
more
do
whack
is
at it,
wait
one more
until we
whack
get
at it.
one pass through this, and we're not gonna get through this whole thing today.
Yeah, no, we're definitely not going to get through it all today, and we should talk about our process of going through the recommendations. We do have just some general comments that we've received from some of the committee members, so thank you for that, that are on the right-hand side of this document. And those can be integrated, assuming, you know, everybody's okay with them. But yeah, we I guess, do we want to transition now into kind of talking about the process of going through the recommendations and, you know, how long it's going to take? Because obviously this is a long document, and we want to make sure that we're moving through it as swiftly as we can, while also making sure that we're covering what we need to cover.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
All right, Peter.
Okay, so what we had talked about, just kind of internally, and want to make sure you guys are all okay with this, is going through the recommendations, which it could either be me or Linda, kind of going through recommendations. And, you know, not necessarily going one by one, unless you feel that's necessary, but maybe looking at a chunk of the recommendations at once. So looking at, you know, goal one, objective one, having people kind of read through them. Maybe Linda or me highlights the recommendations, and then we open it up for comment. And we don't really want to get into wordsmithing right now. If you have, you know, specific wordsmithing that you would like, I would maybe mark that up either on a piece of paper or in your own document and then send to me, and I can make those changes. But if we get into wordsmithing right now, we'll be here till 2027. So we want to try, if possible, to get through this in a few meetings. You know, 3 would be ideal. We also just in general want to talk about the timeline. You know, with the timeline, we do want to have a public meeting this summer. And so we need to have a draft ready for that. And so, you know, all of this means we should try to get through the recommendations as quickly as we can.
Well,
I would like to suggest, Kim, that as we are going through this, we settle any of these questions that you had that are in the right-hand
right-hand side.
comments column, so that that's cleaned out of there.
Mhm.
So that at least we, you know, we've done something.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep, definitely.
I mean, I tire dust is very important here. I had no idea what that meant, but, you know, let's get, you
I
know,
didn't-
let's get rid of this stuff on the right-hand, you know, margin.
And it's only in these first couple of pages that I believe that they're in there. I don't find any others. Unless I'm, you know.
Some of them are edits, but
Oh, there's a few
See,
more.
this is
I got
just,
it,
you know, this
Yeah.
is all,
because it disappears when I scroll down.
oh, yeah, I mean, but it's,
All right, so we want to go through the bullets. of
Sure.
our-
Notice Emily has her hand up.
Emily,
Yeah, thank you. Kim, I don't know. I think it was back in January, I might have sent you a link to a document that I was editing. And I never finished the last 2 sections in it, but I just wanted to make sure you still had that because I think that is where most of my comments and edits are.
Okay, great.
I can
Thank you
resend
for
it to
reminding
you.
me. Yeah, would you mind resending it to me? Sorry
Sure.
if I missed it. But I
It's
can make
okay.
sure to integrate that into
Okay.
this. Yep.
And then my only other question was going to be, as we go through this, I was sort of thinking about this before the meeting. Does it make sense as we go through each section to also talk about the responsible parties? Because I feel like in some instances that could also become, I don't know if it'll be a lengthy conversation, but it'll take time. So I just didn't know if we wanted to try to do that at the same time or separately.
no, I think that should be separate because I think we're going to have a lot of conversation about that. Does anybody else feel one way or the other?
So does that mean people would send me comments directly?
that's not gonna work.
That's not gonna work. I think we need to discuss them as a group, but I'm not sure that right this second is where we discuss it.
well,
Jeff,
can I make a suggestion? I think this is a good opportunity to do. And Linda, sorry for the flashback here. How the Concom's been dealing with the order for SPPF. I think if people looked at it in advance a little bit, or even started today. And just highlighted the ones for themselves that they wanted to discuss. Because some of them people may not want to discuss, and then I think when we go through and have the meeting to say. You know, water quality section, objective 1, recommendation 1, if no one wants to talk about it, we can skip it. Recommendation number 2, if no one wants to talk about it, we can skip it, and then we can just dial on to the ones that people want to talk about.
well, we did that sort of with the goals and objectives.
Yeah, I think we need to then move from goals and objectives to the recommendations.
I
But
don't
not,
wanna get into who's gonna do what,
and I think we can do the responsible parties after we've, because
yeah.
if we change the recommendations, that may change the responsible
So
parties.
party, yeah, so let's leave the responsible party out of this for now. Okay,
All
got-
right.
what-
Linda, how do you want to do this? Do you want to, for you to read off just briefly the recommendation? For each, we have a number of recommendations under, let's say, the first goal objective. And then once we get through all of them, we open it up for comment, or do you want me to read through them?
I think you can read through them, I'm not sure we even need to read through them, we can all read them.
Okay, or if everybody wants to read them themselves. And
you-
I don't know if it's useful if I share my screen or if we just want to have everybody read through them themselves and then just open the floor for comments.
Well, go through the bullets on the right of this first section.
Okay. Let me then share my screen.
Then we can get rid of them,
Yeah, exactly.
because they don't really, I assume that the highlighted sections are what goes with the bullets.
Yeah,
Right.
so here's Steve noted, believe recommendations without new action should remain to keep it on record.
I'm very impressed, Steve. You really dug into this.
I would not use a contraction. I know wordsmithing isn't happening, but never use a contraction in a document. Does not add any new action. Pet peeve.
Yeah.
If there's any other contractions in this whole document, get rid of them.
Yep.
For
I
now.
agree with Steve's comment.
Is there a reason why? Oh, that's interesting, okay.
I think some of these recommendations are carried over from the old plan too. So it's kind of my issue with redundancy. I think redundancy is a good thing as long as it's in print, even if it is redundant, at least it's there on the record.
Is there? Tara, did you do anything about the two-stroke engine versus four? The bullet.
I mean, it was something that I put forward to Shab probably like 5 or 6 years ago, saying that it should be included in like a best management practice to look into ways for converting to a 4-stroke and providing incentives, but maybe it could be a recommendation for explore incentives for converting to a 4-stroke or an electric engine now.
Two-stroke engines are pretty much on their way out. Parts for these two-strokes are getting harder and harder to come by, and the boat yards aren't even working on some of them now. They're just like, it's too old, it's too beat up, we don't want to handle it. So
That's like the whole scallop fleet.
yeah, but basically a lot of those engines you just can't get the parts for anymore because of their age.
Well, that's good news.
I don't think anybody is going to get a 4-stroke engine because they read this in the harbor plan.
Well, I
Oh.
mean, you could probably say that about everything though. Like who's gonna get a more environmentally friendly mooring? Just be, like these
Yeah.
are proposals that we're making to make the harbor better, and I think we should include everything possible.
Okay.
Whether
Yeah,
it's
as a reference, it speaks our standard. This is what we expect of you.
Okay.
We
Well,
can
I see-
certainly put it into the recommendation says provide boat owners with information regarding water quality, and this could be one of them. The benefits of a 4-stroke or whatever.
I'm
Steve
not
had
sure
a
what
co-
these bullets are, actually.
Steve had a comment just above the 2-stroke, 4-stroke thing
Yeah,
about the harbor master thinking that the harbor master distributes any information. That's news to me.
she did say something about that.
They give
Now-
out, there's information in there on the counter when people come to check in and things like that.
But I believe when they get their mooring permits, they hand them something.
No. I've never gotten anything handed. to
Well,
me.
that's where it needs to, that's where it needs to be.
I think now that all permits, harbor-related permits are coming out of that office instead of the police station.
Yeah.
That it's Sheila staff and not police station staff, so their heads are, on the water as opposed to back inland.
Well, I mean, it's one thing when you have your own mooring and you get a permit,
Right.
but then you've got all of the transit where they
Yeah,
have
the
no dealing
tie-ups.
with the harbor master at all, and it's all, Nantucket moorings, and then,
Yeah, the tie-ups.
I've never seen Nantucket moorings hand anything out.
Well,
So,
they should be required to hand things out every time a new tie-up.
I mean, they meet, I can see Nantucket moorings meets pretty much every boat that comes in. If they come in during, their regular hours, but and that would be the time that I would think they would hand them a little brochure or something, and I've never seen that.
The same thing with Mattocket Marine and the same thing with the harbor master's office.
in the boat basin, when someone comes
Boat
in
basin,
and ties up, they get a welcome package of some
Well,
sort.
that's,
Yeah,
that they may actually get. I think they do, but certainly not Nantucket moorings.
well, we need to address that. Yacht Club, anybody who's got more of the Great Harbor Yacht Club, the Nantucket Yacht Club.
I think my thought there was if there's some kind of new information pamphlet that comes out of all this, that you can just put a stack up on a desk, like, at the Nantucket Yacht Club, you walk by the welcome desk every time, not everyone's going to pick it up, but a bunch of people will.
Yeah, I think that's kind of critical. Anybody else got comments about that? But we need to be very specific about what we expect.
Well, this is gonna be an action item, and clearly it's an item that has not been acted on up to now.
Yeah. I don't understand discussions and information sharing to car owners of car-related water quality impacts. Where is that coming into this?
I think correct me if I'm wrong, but it's thinking about I think tires, how tires kind of shred and that possibly impacting water quality.
I think I added that in because it's a emerging concern with the EPA, and we had briefly discussed it at an early meeting and it got shot down immediately. And I just think if this plan's going to be with us for 10 years, that we should be thinking forward and be progressive and include these things, especially if we're looking at our stormwater systems and filtration. And I just think that, again, we should include everything that could potentially impact our harbor and our shellfish.
Well, then flesh that comment out more, because anybody reading this from the public is gonna go, what the hell?
Well, another thing is that on the water, we have a lot of tugboats that come in, and those tugboats are frequently festooned with old tires as bumpers.
Hmm.
And the elements probably break down those things to a certain extent,
A
so.
wave has to hit it, that's all.
I think there are other car impacts too, right? There's oil, gas, any other fluid that comes off of a car that hits the road. I mean, I think there's
But flesh this
sneaky
out
impacts.
as to what exactly we're talking about, because that one sentence isn't gonna do anything, because nobody understands any of that.
Yep, we can add more there. Yeah, and oh yeah, Tara wrote here, tire dust needs to be an emerging concern. So it's listed on one of the NOAA websites. Okay, that sounds good. Steve wrote here, what organizations? So organizations need to do their part for water quality education. So my guess, the organizations would be considered the responsible parties, but I agree that that's kind of vague.
Organization is not the right word.
Hmm.
Property owners. Whether it's a commercial property owner and residential property owners, because we have both on the harbor. I think that might be better.
Yeah, I don't know if it's property because it's the education. So I don't know if property owners is the right word. Since property owners probably wouldn't be doing the water quality education.
Or extending the education or providing education to their patrons or their renters or whatever. We gotta flesh that phrase out. Organization isn't working.
Was the intention
Entities?
to, yeah, maybe entities, was the intention to just suggest that in addition to what's done collaboratively as part of this plan, that like all the organizations should continue to do their own outreach as well?
Organization is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Because the property owner with something in the watershed or along the harbor,
Well,
to notify their people, don't leave trash on the beach, don't throw things in the water, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why, you know, we've talked many times about an education pamphlet for every homeowner, every renter. And providing it to the real estate people, et cetera, about what our concerns are and what you can and can't do and all that stuff. And leave footprints only on the sand kind of thing, going back to that. So I think there's a better way to phrase this thing. Anybody else, Jeff?
no, I think it's organizations just needs to be a different word.
I can work on that.
Okay. Recommendation number 2.
Okay. Moving into, so responsible parties, we're gonna skip for now. The one comment, Kristen did just kind of make to me on the side is, before we share this, we need to make sure that the responsible parties are, you know, are accurate. So we can wait on that for now, but we definitely need to make sure we dig in on that.
Well, it should be Nantucket Land Bank.
Land bank here?
Well,
I
it probably
think-
should be both, but
Yeah,
Okay,
but shouldn't we go with the Nantucket Land Bank
Kim, if it's easier, I think
conservation?
Tara and I can probably put our heads together
Mhm.
to work on the responsible parties.
Yeah, but this
Yeah.
isn't right.
To bring forward to the group to review instead
Yeah,
of
I
trying to
think
do it on the
I think
fly.
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's a
Good
great
idea.
idea.
We'll take that
Can't
on.
leave the land bank out of here,
Nope.
Yep. Okay.
We'll take that on at a staff level.
or the DPW,
Make sure you say Nantucket Land and Water Council, because their name has changed.
yeah.
That's in my notes, Kim.
Okay, great. Okay.
We'll get all of those responsible parties for all of them put together.
Yep, thank you.
Ryan Mitchell, that's a good tip.
Well, if we're gonna include Mariah Mitchell, you gotta include the yacht clubs,
Well,
et cetera, et cetera.
No,
White
that's a very
Elephant.
different animal.
That's what I'm saying, because UMass Boston is not a town entity, Land Council is not a town entity, and Mariah Mitchell's not a town entity. So if we're just looking for what's in general, globally on these responsible parties, are we using only town entities or more globally? Because you can't have a combination here. If you just want town, then it's just gotta be town.
I think historically we've also used some outside entities, but I think there's
We
ways to
gotta
do
put them all
that.
in.
Well, I think there's ways to get there. Why don't, we'll put together the list of those for everyone to review. That's a little bit cleaner than the existing list.
I think there's a comma missing or some word missing in the recommendation number 2.
Okay, we can think about that. But so Tara noted currently, this is specifically harmful algal blooms could be expanded. Tara, what do you think could be expanded to?
Are we still on recommendation number 2?
Yeah.
Because there's absolutely nothing underneath it.
That's a good question. I don't remember what I meant by it, but I think we are trying to expand the harmful algae bloom to other areas, but
Mhm.
I know that like maybe not water quality monitoring, but we are like thinking about some community monitoring of like scallop populations, like for strandings and stuff like that. But maybe that doesn't fall into that exact recommendation.
You could just add something that, in addition to saying explore expanding the network to monitor new sample sites, you could say and additional parameters or something.
I think the other thing to add to that too, with additional parameters, is something that has, following standard operating procedures or something to make sure that people are collecting consistent data. If they're consistent, parameters they're looking for. So if folks are collecting nitrogen information, that we're collecting it in similar ways and providing the information in similar units. So it's shareable without a lot of work.
Yep, that sounds good.
Anything else on recommendation number 2?
Okay, Tara, yeah, I can add those in. Down to this one here. Tara noted this happens for various grade levels, currently 4th and 8th on a regular basis. So we're talking about implementing an annual field trip for appropriately aged students to visit Brant Point Hatchery. So I guess she's noting that it already is happening. So do we need to even include it, or should we just say continue to do it, or remove it?
You need to do it. I don't want to take it out. Does anybody else feel strongly about that? Their kids visit.
I think you could say continue and expand.
Yeah. These kids aren't running around in the little Boston Whalers, the high school kids are. So expand it. It's gotta be more than just once in their curriculum of 12 years, frankly. It opens their eyes in 4th grade, but then they need to really be aware of it in high school. Middle school and high school.
Okay. All right, next one is maybe create a position between health and NRD for an education outreach specialist. So our recommendation is saying create an education outreach subcommittee on harbor health and natural resources. So instead, maybe having a education outreach specialist.
For what purpose? You gotta add, create something, you gotta add purpose.
To talk about harbor health and natural resources.
This is something that we've discussed for many years, and we've been trying to put into our budget, but it has not been accepted by the town. But I think there's a need for educational outreach, and we don't always have time in our current positions to provide adequate outreach and put information out there. So, the town has one person that she does her best to handle all the departments, but it's just something that we've been thinking and talking about.
I think it's a great idea, but just add the purpose in the recommendation. But you basically just stated the purpose, but it's not in that one sentence, 2 sentences. So when you have a create, then you have a reason to create. So just add something in that section, number 4.
Yep.
We always want to have a lot of this stuff, we always want to have a purpose. Why are we recommending this? Why are we doing this? I know we have goals and objectives and whatnot, but when you're stating a recommendation, just, you got to sort of give why I'm recommending that in its own self.
Makes sense.
4 guys.
Okay, next one is easy. Yep, we can just add the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board.
Can I just ask a question about that, number 5? And this is
Yeah.
maybe a question for everyone and maybe more so Peter, but should we call this the Nantucket Blue Pages? And then Guide to Protecting Nantucket's Waters? Because that's what I know it as, but.
It's Nantucket Blue Pages, a citizen's guide to protecting Nantucket's waters.
Why don't, we'll just send the full title we could put in there.
Okay.
You look it up.
Yeah, so just verify that.
Yep, okay. Next comment was to continue efforts to develop an annual report card for Nantucket Harbor that includes letter grades for water quality. Tara was saying every 2 years instead of annual. Is that what's already happening, Tara, or is that?
We do have one report card that came out last year, and we are currently this month having talks about the second phase of that and what that looks like. So yes, it is happening. It's just it wasn't written into a plan.
Are we on number 6 or number 7?
Oh,
Number-
sorry, that's 7.
Yeah, what about number 6?
Sorry, I was just going through the comments. Did we want to talk about each recommendation as well?
Well, there's nothing to be said, but if there is somebody who wants to say something about 6, they can do it, but nobody.
Yeah,
has any
I do.
comment.
I actually do. I wasn't sure if you wanted wanted us to comment on everything now or not, but for 6, let me just go back to mine. I just wanted to also add some language if everyone agrees for that one. On the second line where it says, well, it says continue outreach and education on illicit discharge regulations to increase awareness of regulations and associated fines. And I would love to just add, as well as clarity around who's responsible for implementation and enforcement. Because I've definitely heard from folks who seem really confused about who's supposed to be enforcing those and implementing them.
Yep.
Good.
And I also, my understanding from reading them is that the primary enforcement, and Jeff, please correct me if I'm wrong, is the health department. And I didn't see them listed under responsible parties, but.
No,
Well,
we'll
there's
fix
a
the
little-
response part. It's their regulation, so well, actually it's the select board regulation, but it's established under. health
Yeah,
authority.
there's a lot of, I'm looking at them just very quickly as we go through them. There's a lot of issues with the responsible party stuff.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on 6?
I would just say that the health department is questioning where everything seems to come down to them to enforce stuff and they don't have the staff.
Well,
Well, staff, everywhere we go, including the
And,
harbor master's office.
The health department seems to be a catch-all because they're the only ones that seem to enforce anything. And
And they're down a person now.
I will say, health also has some interesting latitudes to be able to create regulations and have like ties to those that a lot of other locations
exactly,
don't
that's
have.
why it lands on the health department.
I think if you can also find ways for them to justify staffing needs by pointing it out and having plans to do it, it's often very helpful for them through the budget process too, so. But we'll make sure they get in responsible
Okay,
parties.
okay, so at least when you're doing the responsible party.
And
That's an
the health department only has so many, physically, how are they gonna deal with illicit discharge in the harbor? They don't have a boat unless they're out there riding or, doing a ride along with the marine department.
Which they're not really gonna do.
Right.
Well, that's,
Steve, you can volunteer.
They're gonna use your boat,
They're gonna
Steve.
use your boat.
well, there are also ways to
My
be,
catboat and sail around and check.
the health department also has avenues to designate personnel as agents of the Board of Health, especially for specific issues. So if it was gonna be an illicit discharge on the harbor, they might have the ability to designate individuals in the harbor master's office as agents of the Board of Health for the specific purpose of enforcing illicit discharge within the harbor. It's something that they can do. But everyone needs to know that that's what's happening and doing it, so.
Or the sewer department.
You
Good to
also,
know.
you also need help down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are ways, so I think keeping it in there is fine and having those parties, but I think. Also letting them figure out the best way for them to implement some of those things with the resources that are readily available would be helpful too.
Okay, number 7.
Okay, we already talked about this a little bit, that having this be every 2 to 3 years. Anything else on this?
Well, the freshwater pond issue. Didn't we decide that this isn't really covered by this report?
Trying to think if any of them are in.
The only one that would possibly at the washover in, well, it's not even in the harbor, Capon Pond, but Sacajah is really the only one that's sort of directly connected to the harbor.
Well,
Right.
long part of Long Pond's in our district because of the ditch.
Mattocket Ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two things. Sacajah Pond and Long Pond with the Mattocket Ditch.
I mean, I'll just speak for the Natural Resources Department. If we're gonna put together a water quality report, I would say there's a good chance that there's gonna be a freshwater pond section included, whether it's listed here or not. So if we want to stick to the planning area, I think that's fine for this, but we would probably create that or something similar anyway.
Yeah, that's why I think we should probably leave the ponds off of this one. You're gonna be doing it anyway. Cause this came up, this freshwater pond thing came up a long time ago. Sort of right at the beginning, we started talking about where the jurisdiction was. Unless you want to be more specific, when you say freshwater ponds. Long Pond because of the Mattocket Ditch. And Sacajah Pond, because that is directly attached to the harbor. I pulled my boat across there many times at low tide.
Wait,
Would that make more sense?
Sacajah Pond?
Sacajah
Harbor?
connected to the harbor.
The end and gone up
You think of custom?
Ada?
Ada Pond.
Sacajah
Yeah.
Pond's
Well, I would say
gone.
neither of those are freshwater.
They're
ponds.
not freshwater.
Yeah,
Long Pond is what, brackish?
at one end. But salty enough for marine creatures to go all the way up and all over it.
Yeah, interesting things in there. I would leave out the freshwater ponds then. Anybody else have a comment about that?
So basically keep them in.
No, keep it out.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on recommendation 7? All right, 8.
Get rid of the word also.
And
In
receptacles is spelt wrong, but you can fix that later.
which is
Also, for designing, I'd get rid of the word also.
also okay.
It could all be standalone sentences.
What did you say was spelled wrong?
Sorry, it's in 8 receptacles.
Okay.
There you go. And I hate that, trying to spell that word.
Uh-oh. Okay.
And I wouldn't say pieces. I know I'm wordsmithing. Wait for the last sentence regarding which pieces of the report, sections of the report would probably be better than pieces.
Can I ask a question about recommendation 8?
Wait, let's get through
Oh,
here.
sorry. Okay.
Okay, I guess go to 8, there's nothing left on this one. All right, what about 8?
I was just curious, what is do we think the greatest contributor to trash to the harbor is?
Humans,
But is it from boats? Is it from land? Is it from, wind? Is it from, I don't know, I'm just asking. And is trash in the harbor, is it from Long Island? Is trash in a harbor like a, I'm just curious. I guess one of the reasons I'm asking the question, just so you know, is because the land bank has a pack in, pack out policy, basically. That we've been pretty consistent about trying to encourage, and then we have maintenance staff that basically pick up our properties in lieu of public. So I guess I was just trying to gather how much trash receptacles are actually beneficial. I guess that's what I was thinking, why I was asking about it.
well, I think Jesse brought up the fact when we talked about trash receptacles, I think she brought up something months ago about. You leave the trash receptacles there and they will come. If you don't have trash receptacles and you say, leave only your footprints on the beach, that whole program was great. Then they tend not to just pile it up next to a trash barrel like they do down at the jetties. And I think that we had discussed the trash receptacle issue at the beaches and the harbor before. No,
Okay.
and I has them all over the place down on the wharves, which is great. But when you're talking about, Monomoy or Good Cathcart or wherever the other ones are, it was thought that leaving one there, they're gonna pile it all over it instead of taking it with them. So that was a reason why not to do that. The DPW hardly ever goes out there, but. So I think we need to discuss that trash receptacle thing on the waterfront. Jeff, you got any comments about that?
I think they're very useful in certain places, and I 100% agree with Rachel about not having them in other places.
Yeah.
Right, like, I don't think you could get away with saying in the planning area that we're not gonna have trash cans on the strip at Broad Street,
No,
right?
they
Like,
need more trash.
you need them there, but I completely agree. I don't
Not at
think
the
that we
beach.
should have trash cans at, at Cathcart or at Pocono, because it invites trash.
Stuff, yeah, they don't take it with them.
So some of it's, applying some common sense to where it would be. But I think maybe in that recommendation is just something that says, seek funding to maintain trash receptacles where appropriate. Or something that puts that qualifier in there, you have to think about it.
Mhm.
I also I keep going back to it, leave only your footprints on the sand. We remember those signs. They were all over the place. I think we need to go back to something along that line. Please take your trash with you. I'll leave only your footprints on the sand. That was very successful. They were cute little signs. I remember the HCC had to approve them. But there are, public access down off of Hulbert. They can, cute little signs with just the footprints. So I think signage would be very beneficial when we're talking about these satellite areas, not in the downtown.
Linda, you're right, that Leave Only Footprints campaign was just incredibly popular and sort of permeated culture on Nantucket, I still see bumper stickers for that, and those signs, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I think that would be really effective if we went back to that, if you want to add that to somewhere in your recommendations, but I think that's got to be revisited.
And somehow it needs to, make the leap to boats in the harbor. So instead of leave only footprints, leave only boat wake or something like that, because I'm sure trash comes off those boats.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Horribly.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
guess that's what I was asking. I was asking that, is mostly, it's hard to quantify, right? But is a lot of harbor trash coming off boats, in which case it's a totally different issue, right?
Yep.
And what is the messaging there?
I think it's everything. I think it's
Multiple
people leaving
sources.
it on multiple sources, because you leave your junk on the sand and the tide comes in, takes it out. You throw stuff, I've seen people throw stuff off their boats.
I think the harbor master this last year or two has done a trial thing out in the harbor that collects trash. It's sort of like a buoy. Steve, do you know anything about that?
No, I've not heard that.
It was an experimental thing, and apparently, I believe it was pretty successful. And I think it was the harbor master, but I just throw that out there. I
And
think, if the harbor master gets engaged with going through this, that would be something that she could include.
I think we need to revisit this section again as to how we want to deal with this.
one of the pet peeves of our chairman of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board is the amount of bark mulch that is on beds around the harbor on the waterfront.
Yeah.
And what happens to that bark mulch when you get a rain event or a flooding event? It goes into the harbor and then apparently adds to the silt layer of the harbor. I don't know how that can be stopped, but it's a thing he brings up a lot.
Well, it washes that and all the pesticides and.
I think we're getting well beyond
Okay,
the
so
scope of
let's
that
keep moving.
recommendation.
We sort of get the point of
Sorry.
recommendation 8, we gotta flush it.
Well, I think those are all very different things, right? You're not gonna have one recommendation that covers
Everything.
all aspects of trash, because it's just not possible to do at this kind of level. So
But we just gotta flush that out a little bit more, maybe get the bullet points or something. All right, recommendation number 9.
I actually was just gonna add that I believe it is, yeah, actually, I'm pretty certain. It's just Maya Comet, Gibbs, and Tom Nevers that are currently listed by the state as needing fish consumption advisories. It's just those 3 on Nantucket.
Again, it's outside of our area.
This is something that somebody's been working on, as an Eagle Scout project. Has anyone keyed in on that other than us?
No, but I would love to know about that, Rachel. Maybe we can talk offline because I've done a lot of work on this in the background as well.
Okay, well, maybe I can hook you up. Is Eli Holland? And so we have draft signage actually that he's presented to us, and I could, I'm not sure where he is in the process. I believe he was going to the sign committee, but this is a great time for him to catch up with you, Emily.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But should we include this at all? Because again, we're back to the ponds.
Yeah, I don't know that it's relevant here, but it's definitely being looked at.
I don't
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
technically outside.
If you want to keep the multilingual regulatory notices in here, then confine it to the harbors. Somehow disseminated.
You mean confined to like the harbor planning area?
Yeah, when I will leave the rest of it, provide translation consistent, so forth and so on, because they're all on the harbor, they're fishing off the docks, everything else.
Yep.
We'll just get rid of the pond part. Anybody else on 9? Okay, recommendation number 10, we're speeding along here. Are you sure we can do that since the official language of the United States is now English?
we can do whatever we want.
Exactly. We're gonna continue to do it.
I think that's a minimum standard. We can always exceed.
50% of the country doesn't speak English as a first language.
That's it.
Discussion that he did that.
Everybody okay with this?
Always speak for myself. Yes, not that I'm a voting member of the committee, but I'm okay with it.
Fine with
Okay.
me.
Mine with me.
You're a
Anybody else
wannabe.
have anything?
What's it?
You're a wannabe.
Yep. Well, no, I'm not. I actually have to vote.
Okay. On to 11.
Do people register their pools now?
They're supposed to provide notice for draining events and statements of dechlorination.
Yeah, but it's not registering their pools. They don't register their pools.
No.
They register the maintenance associated with the pools, correct?
They're supposed to.
Yeah, so it's not register their pools. It's pool maintenance entities.
The pool maintenance entities register.
Yep. Kim, if you want, I'll take a shot at
Yeah. 'cause
some
that's- they don't
wordsmithing on that
register
one
their
for you,
pools,
since
so that's
I've been
gotta be
involved with
changed.
that.
I think, wouldn't it be more practical to require the residents, if they had to register their pool, just to who their associated maintenance entity was, and then put the onus on the dechlorination notices on the maintenance people, because, the owners don't know what's going on, really.
Yeah, but they don't register pools here.
This is all explained in the illicit discharge regulations. There's already statutes in place that go through this, so I will just make sure that this recommendation
Read it right.
matches the existing regulations.
Right.
Sounds good.
On to objective 2, increasing research on water quality issues. So take a look at recommendation 1.
What are you looking at?
Carol?
Objective 2,
Recommendation 1.
right,
Use where it says specific to Nantucket and update, I'd say regularly update associated data collection protocols.
Okay, regularly.
Increase and enhance research focused on water quality issues specific to Nantucket and regularly update associated data collection protocols and reference data. So it's ongoing. Small distinction.
Everybody okay with recommendation 1? It's pretty just general, look for more funding.
yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Recommendation 2. Also pretty general.
Wasn't there something in objective 1, a similar recommendation?
About what?
Not having to do with water quality monitoring?
Add something about, sorry, I'm having trouble hearing, but add something about water quality monitoring.
Aren't they the same?
No, I'm just saying that the recommendation number 2, talking about water quality monitoring, I think under objective 1, there was some recommendations dealing with the same thing, wasn't there?
Well, 1 and 2 are very similar, except for the use of the word live.
Yeah. We could potentially combine the 2 unless anybody disagrees.
Yeah, now combine the 2.
Yeah, I think where we can combine them rather than just having these things floating out there. Literally.
Yep.
The same with recommendation number 3.
Okay.
Or bring into objective number 2, anything under objective number 1 that, recommendations that could be put under objective number 1, I mean, under 2.
And I wouldn't use the word add, I'd use the word expand, maybe.
yeah, they're not expanding those sites, they're adding those
to them.
sites.
Okay. Expand, add and expand.
Or you could do expand to include. Expand sampling area
Sampling
to
sites.
include,
Yeah.
or you could just say add.
See, if you look at recommendation number 2 under objective 1. That's awful similar. To what you got under objective number 2.
Yeah, she's gonna combine them.
Okay, you're gonna combine all those?
Rework them. 3's different, but the first 2, it can just little
Yeah,
words,
okay.
everything will be the same.
Okay,
All right, number 4.
there is a gift that I know that Great Harbor has been making for several years. As part of their deal. To form that, the club there. And I think now they're extending,
It's
the
not,
time frame expired, now I think they're
it was a settlement of a lawsuit that
Right.
brought by.
Right,
10 fishermen, it was
Not again
35.
necessarily.
right, but anyhow, I think the Great Harbor is now giving additional monies for this.
Yep.
And so, I guess we talk about seeking funding, I think the funding is there.
Never heard stuff more.
Current grant cycle opened on March 1st. And applications are due on April 15th.
I would also,
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say is that also is the case in 2025. In 2030. That may not exist anymore,
Oh, okay,
right? Like in a 10-year window,
okay, yeah,
some of that stuff, I mean, just looking what happened
Okay.
like federally right now where grants are all over the map for what's available and not.
You get what we can get.
okay.
We're on number 4. That word downtown is not correct. Waterfront area of Nantucket Harbor, or the town. Downtown doesn't have a T in it like that, put it that way.
Yeah, I just corrected that. What happened was I did a search and replace for all towns to put capital T, and that's why I did that.
Well, since they're building the new downtown behind us, are we gonna have to include that?
Would you rather have that say waterfront area?
Yeah, I would rather say waterfront area.
Well, I mean, it distinguishes it from other waterfront areas, the downtown waterfront area.
Yep. That works.
Anything else on that one? On to number 5. Well, it shouldn't be confined just to Hither Creek and Mattocket Harbor. Most of the island is actually on private wells. Everything going up the harbor to Wallwinnet is all on private wells. So why are we limiting ourselves to Hither Creek and Mattocket Harbor?
Wasn't this specifically the wells that are monitoring the landfill? What's coming
But
off
there
the
are
landfill?
wells going in over there. It should apply, you should put another sentence in for the ones along the harbor as well. That's where the development is occurring. There's very little new development up in that direction in Mattocket.
But well, Jeff, somebody else can chime in, but I just assumed that this was specifically the monitoring wells that were a DEP requirement for the landfill, like directly on their property, but maybe I interpreted this wrong.
Well, if it's.
I mean, if I may, when I read the first sentence of that, seems to be focused very much on the landfill area
Yeah.
specifically. It doesn't mean we can't do it elsewhere, but I think this goal is recommendations tied to that area.
Because we've got well fields that are creeping out towards the harbor going out Pulpus.
These aren't wells that were
I know these are test wells,
drinking water wells, they're wells.
test wells, but it says look
Yeah.
at new wells too.
Well, we can clarify that so that it's understood, these are water sampling wells.
What is the biggest pollutant other than nitrogen, secondary to sort of fertilizer issues and nitrogen issues? What's the next largest pollutant for the harbors?
Well, now around the dump, there's a lot of concern about PFAS, but
Yeah. But it's not just confined to the airport, it's becoming all over the place now. Probably from the tarring of the roads.
But what's the impact on the harbor health? I mean, I know on drinking water, but what's the PFAS's impact on harbor health?
I don't know if anybody knows. Has anybody tested for PFAS in the harbor?
we found it in Long Pond, but there's
Yeah.
not a lot of surface water sampling being
I'll take
done
that
at this
question
point.
offline.
But I think that needs to be added into potential harmful pollutants.
Well, isn't it sort of known that in Mattocket Harbor, their creek and everything, this aside from nitrogen, it's the feces from the birds that, hang around the dump is this probably the second largest contributor to water quality issues there. I don't know if it's as concentrated in the main harbor, but
Don't really as many birds as there used to be here.
And these specific monitoring wells around the landfill, I have a feeling that DEP probably requires specific things to be sampled for. It probably includes metals, and I don't really know exactly what else. I'm sure we could probably find out from the DPW, but
Okay.
Okay, so any edits to that?
I mean, I kind of just see it as there's clearly a direct connection between like Long Pond and Mattocket Ditch and the harbor, like we've said. So what's happening there and what those groundwater wells are picking up is likely to be indicative of what pollutants may be reaching the harbor. So that's why I see it as being relevant.
Yep.
6 and 7 combinable or not?
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you can probably,
Yeah,
yeah,
you could.
because they're pretty much
Right.
related.
Okay. Anything else on 5, or should we move on to 6?
We're already on past 5.
Okay, sorry, it's a little muffled, so I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing, but also just
Oh,
generally
it's,
have bad hearing. But
So then,
so recommendation 6, Tara noted that this is already happening.
And
Should we
7 and 6 are the same, basically, or they can be combined, maybe.
I don't think you need to call out a specific species. Um,
That's good.
that's all I was trying to say with that.
Yeah. So on to 8.
Okay.
I think for the next ones for 8 and 9. I think the answer is those two can be combined. Yeah.
Mhm.
Ponds out of there again.
Yep. Just remove the ponds that are outside of the planning area.
Well, we took them out of everything else. You'd have to be very specific about the ponds, Long Pond and. Mosquito.
Okay. All right. Anything else on 8 or 9?
Did you say re-engage and maintain? Contact with them or something along those lines? It's all right to have a little confab before and then never talk to them again.
Your wordsmithing.
Yes, I am. But it's also making it in perpetuity here.
Yep.
Everybody agrees that 8 and 9 can be combined.
agreed.
Okay. Number 10. No thoughts?
Personally good with the rest of them for this objective. 10, 11, 12, 13.
Say what?
I'm personally good with 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14.
Fine. All those? 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14?
Still working through 11. On 12, not the word all.
Sorry, just
Probably
to
use-
clarify, Jeff, you weren't saying combine them all. You said you were fine with them all, right?
Correct. I am fine with them all as separate recommendations.
Separate. Okay, sorry. Again, I'm having trouble hearing.
Sorry about that. I might have mumbled. No, I think they can all stay separate, but I think the
Okay.
wording for them is all fine.
All right, on number 12, you can't say all ponds.
Yeah.
You should probably say related ponds to the harbor or something along those lines.
Well, they reference the harbor planning boundary at the end of that sentence.
Yeah, but all ponds, that leads you to another area. That leads you back to
But-
Hog Pond, it leads you back to
But-
Mount Comet.
They're not within the harbor planning boundary.
It's not, but when you're reading this without looking at that, you don't know that.
Well, you gotta read the whole sentence.
I know that, but you have to do that.
That's why
We
it's a
can-
sentence.
we can at least spell it out so people, so there's no,
So they know which ponds are what we're talking about, because otherwise we get pond, 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 pond. They don't know what pond.
Well, then they would look at the list that's created by the
You're not looking at
recommendation.
that list.
Well, then why do we have it as a recommendation?
I don't care.
I mean, I don't want to be argumentative, but it's, the purpose is to create a list that.
not only
people can reference.
wordsmithing, but you're splitting hairs.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I think strategies is a good word. You have it in question mark, but I think that's a good word.
Okay. Anything else on, I guess, 10 to 13? I know we just took a chunk altogether.
Yeah, unfortunately, you should probably say Mattocket ditch and that is capitalized.
Okay.
Probably impacts on water quality and not to water quality in this particular sentence. And they do have to dredge that thing. They used to do it all the time back in the day. I remember the hullabaloo that occurred, I don't know, Peter, 20 years ago.
It's a
When they
big
stopped
army,
doing it?
it's a big Army Corps harangue.
Yeah, they stopped doing it and everybody was like up in arms over it. So then they've been doing it for decades.
Because of the piles, where the piles of debris are placed, that raises a stink.
Yeah, they did a bad job.
And the DPW got a special machine that didn't beat up the salt marsh and the machine broke
Yeah.
and, yeah.
But they need to deal with it. Anything else under that group before we go on to objective 3?
Well, it dead air.
Objective 3, we've got 10 minutes.
Okay,
We are moving.
on page 6 here.
That's a good thing. All the
Page
dead air is, I'm
Page
listening,
7.
waiting to be able to talk, so I'm not typing.
Yeah, this stormwater management thing is a big bugaboo.
Everybody agree with 1?
Is there any way to stress it even more?
Aren't they working on a stormwater management plan right now?
They're
DPW?
drafting regulations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should take it out. I was just asking. I thought that there was one gentleman that was tasked with mapping and really trying to figure this all out right now.
Yeah, I think we spoke with them and it sounded like yes. So maybe continue to develop.
Yeah, or just leave it in as is. I was just,
I would leave it as is.
Yeah, I would too.
I want to make it stronger.
Mhm.
And it's not actually the DPW.
It's not
No,
the,
it's not. It's the,
Sewer department. That's where stormwater lives right now.
that's right. That's right.
Waste. Remember that?
is it
one,
still
Jeff?
just called the sewer department for now?
No,
No, they got a fancy name now.
because we have to, Concom decisions, we have to change them every time he says sewer department.
What
Yeah.
is the name?
Wastewater treatment plant
Well, it's the wastewater treatment facility.
facility.
I'll double check with David for what they are currently going by as a department with all of that in there.
As a department, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that just develop, Kim, is appropriate rather than continue to develop, because again, this is gonna be, I don't know. I think how you had it was fine.
okay, recommendation 2.
Yep, working on that.
Mhm.
Any takers for? Our next comments on the side aren't until the next objective,
Yep,
so unless people have comments, I'd say we should.
yep, any
Well-
other,
Read through 3 and 4 very quickly.
okay.
Yeah, they don't even know where all these pipes are.
I might just make a quick suggestion in number 5, Kim.
Okay.
And I apologize for the wordsmithing,
Hold
but
on,
where it
wait,
says,
just wait one second.
well, while they're reading. Yeah, this is just a quick change. Instead of coordinate with DPW staff. I would say coordinate with town staff. That way if it moves
Yeah. change.
locations,
Yeah,
it's general enough to still catch it.
until it breaks.
Anything else, through 6?
6 now.
Okay, want to move on to objective 4? Adopt,
What's this? Wait, why are we, what are we saying on number 6? It seems kind of a throwaway sentence.
just, I don't know how much you guys need this, but continue to mark stormwater drains.
We actually did it all at one point and we need to go back and.
Yeah,
mark it.
Just doing the little blow, the smoke things.
No, the
No,
medallion,
there's a little sticker that was on all of the ones that go directly to the harbor. They've lost a lot of them, but we
Yeah,
need something.
so people don't dump their paint down the drains, and you go, oh, look,
yeah, I think that should stay in there, because as Jeff said, those stickers don't last forever.
Absolutely.
We're up to maybe all of our storm drains down there would be.
Well, there's ones down around the yacht club, the
Just all-
Second Yacht Club, what a nightmare.
some cities, it's actually an imprint in the iron of the drain.
Yeah.
In a color, so you see it.
Okay. So keep it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah, 5 minutes. Objective 4, adopt new and amend current policies, bylaws, and regulations to make sure water quality is maintained and improved. So take a look at recommendation 1, and then there is a comment on recommendation 2.
Be consistent with the word bylaws. You're using it correctly in recommendation 1, but you have a hyphen in it up above it.
I'll just make a note to be consistent.
Not just MCDs though. And you're talking about major commercial developments or major residential developments along in the area that we have control over, correct? Because I got most of my major commercial developments are way out of town.
Okay,
Is Wood Square.
so should this be residential?
Does the boat basin count as a MCD?
What, Wilkes Square?
The boat basin?
No, it was 1968. The
Wow,
zoning
what-
bylaw didn't even exist until February of 72, or actually July of 72.
That's right.
The major commercial developments didn't start until 1979. So I don't know. I wouldn't limit it to major commercial developments.
I don't think it does. It just uses that as an example,
And
least that's how I-
redeveloped sites.
because it
Yeah.
starts as the such as and then gives the example.
Most of the MCDs are already done. White Elephant. Yeah, clubs.
Doesn't mean they won't get redone at some point.
No, well, that's not new. There are amendments to them.
And what about marine lumber? If they ever sell that off?
Well, they've been thinking about it.
Yeah, that's right on the harbor and that would be a major commercial development.
Or residential, major
Yeah.
residential. There's MRDs and there's MCDs and
Yeah,
And Dave, you at the West Jetty.
don't start with me.
Yeah,
No, we're
It
not.
does say
Yeah.
such as.
I don't, I
Linda
don't,
Williams Pier.
I don't think that recommendation limits it
I will
to
find
those.
myself.
It's just a singular example of something that could apply.
All right, anything else on that, on just recommendation 1? If not, I feel like since we only have 2 minutes, we should potentially stop there. And Emily, I'll make sure I include your comments the next time that we meet. Sorry that I somehow missed them. And yeah, we can start here, but I want to make sure that we get our next meeting on the calendar.
Okay.
So does 2 weeks, St. Patrick's Day, work for people?
I will not be able to make it that day, but I could always send you my comments again.
We'll be over at Kitty's, right?
What day are we talking?
Yeah,
Seventeenth?
Yeah, it won't really be a meeting, but it's good.
Does that work for others?
17th?
The 17th?
okay with me.
Okay, I'll send out an invite. And Emily, I'll include your comments. Let me know if you have any further comments, but I'll just make sure I get yours.
No, Kim, the system still spits out every Monday that we still have a meeting every Monday.
Is it doing that for others?
I got it last week that we were having a meeting on the 10th. I mean, whatever it was.
Is it doing that for others? Those all should be canceled.
I'm not getting any new ones.
It always says canceled, even if we're having a meeting, so that doesn't work.
Mine are all gone.
Yours are, okay, well, whatever. I just ignore them, but
Okay, maybe you have to actually like click remove from calendar. Sometimes you have to click that.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, Linda, do you want to close the meeting?
Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn at 2:31?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, Steve seconded. All those in favor, Phil,
Aye.
Peter,
All right.
Steve,
aye.
Emily,
Bye.
Rachel,
Aye.
myself. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I'm getting through every time the Concom asked me for an update, so we're slogging through it.
Great. Thanks.
All right.